HR emailed me at 6:17 a.m. about a complaint I never made, with my name stamped on it like a warning. When I walked in, my wife's manager was already waiting outside the conference room door. Seattle, Washington is the kind of place where the rain feels personal, like it's trying to rinse you clean and failing. That morning, it was coming down in thin needles, tapping the windshield while I sat in my truck in the parking lot of Cascade Supply, watching the building wake up one fluorescent strip at a time. I was early because I hadn't slept. I'd spent most of the night listening for my mom's cough through the wall, timing it the way you time a leaking faucet, trying to convince yourself it's not getting worse. We'd moved her into our place 6 weeks ago after her fall, and every day since then felt like a quiet negotiation. My shift schedule, my wife's patience, my mother's pride, and the money that always vanished faster than it should. My phone buzzed again. I didn't even want to look, but my thumb did it anyway. Subject: Action required. HR meeting. Today, 9 a.m. Marco Reyes, please attend a mandatory HR meeting regarding a formal complaint and workplace conduct concerns. Attendance required. That phrase, workplace conduct concerns, hit like a slap. I scrolled down, expecting a mistake I could laugh off, a wrong last name, a forwarded template. But there it was again. Marco Reyes. My badge number. My department. My stomach went cold in a way that had nothing to do with the weather. Inside, the air smelled like wet jackets and burnt coffee. My boots squeaked on the polished concrete as I walked past the time clocks. People nodded the way they always did. Half awake, half hurrying, our faces all lit by the same blue glow of screens and early shifts. I should have gone straight to my station. Instead, my feet carried me down the corridor toward the conference rooms like I was being pulled by a rope. That's when I saw her. Tess Warren, my wife's manager, was standing outside HR Conference B with her arms folded. Perfectly dry hair, perfect coat, no coffee. She looked ready the way people look when they've already made up their mind about you. For a second, my brain tried to file her presence somewhere normal. She's here for a safety meeting. She's here for inventory. She's here because she always shows up early. But her eyes locked on mine and didn't blink. "Marco," she said, like she'd been waiting to say it all morning. My mouth was suddenly too dry to work. "Tess, why are you—" The door opened behind her, and the HR rep stepped out with a clipboard and the careful, practiced face of someone who's about to ruin your day without raising their voice. "Mr. Reyes," he said, "come on in." Tess moved aside, and I walked past her into the room. My wife was already there. Rena sat at the table with her hands clasped so tight her knuckles were pale. Her hair was pulled back the way she did when she was trying to look in control. She wasn't looking at me. She was staring at the center of the table, like the wood grain had answers. In that first second, the room felt too small for all the things we hadn't said lately. Our living room had been like that too. Our kitchen, the car, everywhere the same heavy silence. Me swallowing my stress, her swallowing her anger, both of us pretending it was maturity instead of avoidance. I took the chair across from her. The air conditioner hummed. Somewhere outside, a forklift beeped in reverse, cheerful and ignorant. The HR rep placed a printed packet between us, face down, like a weapon he didn't want to touch. "Before we begin," he said, "this is a formal process. We're here to document and address concerns that were submitted through the proper channels." Rena finally looked up at me, and her eyes weren't angry. They were worse than angry. They were cautious, like she didn't know what version of me she was going to get. I tried to speak and heard myself sound too loud. "I don't even know what this is. I got the email this morning." Tess leaned back in her chair and clicked her pen once. Slow. That's surprising. The HR rep cleared his throat. The complaint alleges intimidation and misuse of access privileges. My heartbeat stuttered. What access privileges? He flipped the top page over and slid it toward me. It was a screenshot of an internal log and a message thread. My name was on it, my employee ID, a timestamp, a badge access entry after hours, and in the thread, a line I didn't recognize at all. Don't worry, I can get you in. He won't see it. My throat tightened so fast it felt like a hand around it. Rena's chair scraped a fraction as she shifted. Her gaze stayed locked on the paper like it was a crime scene. I looked at her, trying to find the joke, the misunderstanding, anything. Rena, have you seen this? She didn't answer right away. Her lips parted, then closed again like she was deciding whether the truth was safe. Tess's pen clicked again. We can't ignore patterns, Marco. Patterns? I snapped before I could stop myself. You don't even know me. Tess's eyes flicked to Rena like they shared a file I hadn't been allowed to open. That was the first moment of real fear. Not for my job, not for my paycheck, but for the realization that whatever this was, it had already traveled through people before it reached me. It had already been shaped, softened, sharpened, framed. I forced myself to breathe, to speak like I wasn't drowning. That message isn't mine. I didn't write that. The HR rep's face didn't change. We're not making conclusions yet. We're gathering statements. He pointed to the timestamp. Your badge accessed door 3 at 9:48 p.m. last Thursday. You were not scheduled. I opened my mouth, then stopped. Thursday. Last Thursday had been the night my mom's physical therapist canceled. The night Rena got home late. The night her sister texted something vague and Rena threw her phone down like it burned her. Last Thursday had been complicated. Rena finally spoke, quiet. Where were you? It was 3 words, but the way she said them made it feel like a trap with soft edges. I stared at her. At home. Her eyebrows lifted just a little. Not disbelief exactly. Something sharper. Something that said she'd already asked herself that question and didn't like the answer she came up with. The HR rep slid a form toward me. We'll need your written statement. Today. Tess stood, smoothing her coat like she was done. I'll be outside. We have production targets. As she walked out, she paused at the door and turned back, just enough to let the moment hang. Rena, she said, not looking at me. Let me know if you remember anything else. The door closed behind her with a soft click that felt louder than it should have. Rena's face tightened. Remember anything else? I don't even know what that means, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I swear to you, I didn't send that message. She stared at me for a long beat. Then, slowly, she reached into her pocket and placed her phone on the table between us like she was laying down evidence. The screen was dark, but her hand hovered over it, trembling. I didn't want to do this, she whispered. My stomach turned. Do what? She unlocked it and opened a thread. A name at the top I knew too well. Her sister. The room seemed to narrow until all I could see was that name, like a spotlight. The hum of the air conditioner turned into a roar in my ears. My hands went numb. Rena slid the phone across the table toward me, her eyes glossy but hard. Read it, she said, and then tell me again you were at home. Rena's phone felt too warm in my hands. Lydia's name at the top of the thread looked like a dare. Read it, Rena said, and she didn't sound like my wife. She sounded like a judge. I scrolled, and the texts hit one after another, short, brutal, written in all caps like truth was a weapon. "He's lying to you. Ask him about Thursday night. I tried to protect you." And then the line that made my stomach drop. "If you don't wake up, I'll send the screenshots to Tess." I looked up. "Why does your sister even know Tess?" Rena's mouth twitched like she wanted to laugh and couldn't. "Because she collects people. Because she runs into them. Because she loves being the person with receipts." That was Lydia in a sentence. Our whole Dominican circle used to love her, until my mom moved in and Lydia turned it into a verdict. That Rena was raising 2 households, that I was using her, that my family was a burden she didn't sign up for. The sisters started fighting in private, then in front of people, and once it started, it never really stopped. The HR rep cleared his throat, trying to pull us back onto the rails. The printed packet sat between us. Badge logs, a screenshot of a message thread with my name stamped on it, like a fake signature on a contract. "The complaint alleges intimidation and misuse of access privileges," he said again, softer this time, like repetition could make it true. I leaned forward. "Show me the original, not a screenshot, the sender ID, the actual log." His eyes flicked to the door like management had ears. "We have what was submitted." "And who submitted it?" I asked. "We don't disclose identities." That was the quiet horror of it. No yelling, no chaos, just a system that could swallow you whole while speaking politely. My own phone buzzed once, then again. I glanced down and saw a message from our group chat. Friends who treated our marriage like community property. "Bro, you in HR? Tess walking around like she won," someone wrote. I felt heat crawl up my neck. It hadn't even been an hour and already the story was loose in the building, running ahead of me. Rena stared at the paper and then at me. "Where were you Thursday night?" "At home," I said too fast. "With my mom. With you." Her eyes hardened. "I came home late. You were already asleep." The quotes around asleep were invisible, but I heard them. I'd been lying still because I didn't have the strength for another round. Another fight about my mom's meds, the bills, the way my stress filled the apartment like damp laundry that never dried. I felt my keys digging into my pocket and suddenly wondered who else had touched them. If my badge really hit door 3 after hours, it meant either someone had my access, or someone wanted it to look that way. The HR rep slid a statement form toward me. "Write your account, include where you were, and who can verify it." Rena repeated the last part under her breath. "Who can verify it?" My phone buzzed again. Different vibration, unknown number. Rena's eyes snapped to it immediately. "Answer," she said. I pulled it out. Unknown number. My instinct was to step away, to turn my shoulder. Then I realized how guilty that would look. I set the phone on the table and hit speaker so the sound filled the room. "Hello?" A woman's voice, breathy and urgent. "Marco, it's Lydia. Don't hang up." Rena went perfectly still, like a glass about to crack. "Why are you calling my husband?" A tiny pause. Lydia recalibrating. "I'm calling you, Rena," she said quickly. "He's the one who—" "Who what?" Rena's voice stayed flat, which scared me more than shouting. Lydia's tone turned sweet, then sharp. "He knows what he did. He knows what he promised me." My mouth went dry. "Lydia, stop. I don't know what you're talking about." Rena's gaze didn't leave my face. "Promised you what?" On the speaker, Lydia inhaled like she was about to perform. "Ask him about the parking lot. Ask him about the night he begged me not to tell you." The room got smaller. The fluorescent hum got louder. I could feel the urge to deny harder, louder, but something in me knew volume wouldn't save me. "This is insane," I said, keeping my voice low. "Rena, you know your sister. You know how she spins things when she feels left out." Rena didn't blink. "And you know how you sound when you're cornered." The door opened. The HR rep stepped back in, and Tess appeared right behind him, coat flawless, expression calm, like she'd timed her entrance to the exact second it would hurt most. Her eyes went straight to Rena's phone on the table, speaker still lit. "Is this related?" Tess asked softly. Rena didn't look at her. "You tell me. Why is my sister threatening you with screenshots?" For the first time, Tess's face tightened at the edges. She stepped closer, and the moment felt like a frozen frame you could slap on a thumbnail. Tess looming over the printed evidence, Rena gripping her phone with white knuckles, me twisting my work badge in my fist, my keys flashing in my palm, rain streaking the window behind us like scratches. Tess's voice stayed gentle. "Rena, you should end that call." Lydia's voice shot through the speaker, suddenly loud, excited, like she'd been waiting for this. "Oh, hi, Tess. Did you get what I sent you?" My blood went ice. Tess's eyes flicked to me for a fraction of a second, quick, assessing, then back to Rena, like she was measuring how much damage she could do right now. The HR rep swallowed hard. "Ms. Warren, this meeting is confidential." Tess didn't move. "Of course, I'm only here to support process." Rena's thumb hovered over the screen. Her hand shook. For a second, I thought she might keep Lydia on speaker just to watch Tess flinch. Instead, she stabbed the button and the call went dead. Silence flooded the room. The HR rep looked at the packet, then at us, like he'd realized the complaint wasn't a workplace issue at all. "Mr. Reyes," he said, voice suddenly formal. "Effective immediately, you're being placed on administrative leave while we investigate." Rena's head snapped up. "What?" "It's standard when access misuse is alleged," he said, avoiding her eyes. "You'll return your badge today." I stared at him. "You're suspending me based on a screenshot?" He didn't answer that. He held out his hand. I unclipped my badge from my belt, the plastic warm from my body, and set it on the table. It made a small sound, light, harmless, like it didn't matter. Tess watched it land like she'd just won something. 2 seconds later, another buzz hit my phone. A new email notification, subject line already visible. Administrative leave. Immediate. In that thick, breathless quiet, I understood something with terrifying clarity. Whatever Lydia was holding, Tess already had it, and my job was just the first lever they'd pulled. By the time I walked out of the building, the rain had turned mean, wind-driven, sideways, the kind that soaks your collar and makes you feel punished for existing. My badge was gone. My job was pending. And in my pocket, my keys felt heavier than they ever had, like they belonged to somebody else now. I sat in my truck for a full minute with both hands on the steering wheel, staring at my reflection in the wet glass. All I could think was, how do you prove a negative when the people in charge already wrote your story? My phone lit up again. Administrative leave. Immediate. The email was polite, sterile, and perfectly cruel. During the investigation, you are not to enter any company premises or contact staff regarding the matter. No mention of pay, no mention of timeline, just a clean little fence built around my life. I drove home through gray streets that all looked the same, the wipers squealing like they were tired of me. I passed a grocery store where Rena and I used to shop after shifts, when we still had energy to argue about cereal brands and laugh about it. Now I couldn't even imagine that version of us. Now everything felt like it had edges. When I pulled into our apartment lot, my chest tightened before I even cut the engine. The building looked normal. Same beige walls, same sagging little shrubs near the mailboxes. But my body didn't believe in normal anymore. I climbed the stairs, each step echoing. I could already picture the kitchen, the pill organizer on the counter, the dish towel that never stayed folded, my mom's walker angled by the hall like a quiet accusation that we were all one bad day away from falling. I opened the door, and the smell of onions and dish soap hit me. My mom was at the small table in the corner, cardigan on, hands wrapped around a mug like she was trying to borrow warmth from it. Rena was standing by the sink, phone in her hand, shoulders squared. She wasn't facing me, but I could tell she'd heard my key before I even turned it. She didn't say hi. She didn't ask how it went. She said, "Your supervisor just texted me." My throat went tight. "Why would he text you?" Rena turned and her eyes were red but dry. "Because Tess told him I was concerned. Because suddenly I'm part of your case." My mom's gaze flicked from me to Rena and back again. Quiet, careful. The silence in the room felt like a living thing. Thick, listening. I set my keys on the counter. They clinked against a crumpled grocery receipt that wasn't ours, the ink smeared like it had been rubbed by nervous fingers. My brain snagged on it, but I couldn't grab the thought yet. "I'm on leave," I said. My mom's mug paused halfway to her mouth. "Leave?" Rena didn't move. "Administrative leave," she corrected, like she'd already tasted the words and decided they were poison. "With an investigation." My mom looked at me the way mothers do when they can't fix something, like she wanted to stitch my face back into a shape that made sense. "What did they say you did?" I hesitated for half a second too long. Rena stepped closer and held up her phone like a mirror I couldn't avoid. "Misused access. Intimidation. A complaint that has your name on it." My mom's eyes widened. "Intimidation? My son." The shame rose fast and hot, even though I knew it wasn't true, or at least I knew the version on paper wasn't true. "I didn't do it," I said, and I hated how desperate my voice sounded. "Someone's making it look like I did." Rena's lips pressed into a line. "Someone? Like who?" I didn't answer because the obvious name was the one that made everything uglier. The apartment door behind me clicked. I turned and my heart hit my ribs. Lydia. She stood there like she belonged. Long coat, wet hair slicked back, mascara perfect, eyes bright in that sharp, hungry way. She didn't knock. She didn't text. She just appeared, like a problem that knew the code. Rena's face changed instantly like a storm cloud sliding over the sun. "Are you kidding me?" Lydia lifted both hands, palms out, innocent theater. "I came to help." "You came to enjoy it," Rena snapped. My mom gripped the mug tighter. "Lydia, please." Lydia glanced at my mom and softened her voice just enough to sound respectful. "Tia, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I tried to stop this before it got out of control." I felt my skin prickle. "Stop what?" Lydia's eyes landed on me, and for a fraction of a second something unreadable flashed there, like she was deciding which version of me to hand to my wife. Then she looked back at Rena. I told you he was going to drag you down, and you thought I was being dramatic." Rena's laugh came out sharp and humorless. "You literally called my husband from HR." "I called you," Lydia shot back. "You just happened to be sitting next to him while he played innocent." The room felt suddenly crowded, Airless. 3 women in my life, my mother, my wife's sister, standing in a triangle of history I couldn't rewrite. Rena's phone buzzed again. She glanced down and the color drained from her face. She didn't show me the screen. She didn't have to. "From Tess?" I asked. Rena swallowed. "Yeah." Lydia leaned forward, eyes glittering. "Read it." "Don't," I said, too fast. Rena's gaze snapped to me. "Why not?" "Because if Tess was texting my wife directly, it meant the investigation wasn't just about a badge log. It was about control. It was about who got to tell the story first." Rena read silently, thumb scrolling. Her breathing changed. Shorter, shallow. Then she turned the phone toward me. It was a screenshot, an email draft, supposedly from my account. "Rena's behavior is unstable and unsafe. I'm requesting documentation for personal protection." My stomach dropped so hard I thought I might throw up. "That's not," I started. Rena cut me off. "Don't." Lydia made a small sound, like pity, like satisfaction. "Wow," she murmured. "So you were setting her up at work, too." My mom's chair scraped back an inch. "Marco, what is this?" I stared at the screen until the words blurred. The quiet horror wasn't the accusation. It was the fact that the screenshot looked real. The signature line looked like mine. The tone was wrong, but tone doesn't matter when someone hands you proof. I reached for my phone with shaking fingers and opened my sent mail. Nothing, no draft, no record. "They're forging it," I said. "Or someone has access." Rena's eyes didn't soften. "Access. Like the badge they say you misused." My mom whispered, "Ay Dios." Lydia stepped into the kitchen like she owned the space, pointing at the phone in Rena's hand. "And you still don't see it? He's doing damage control. He's trying to make you look crazy so nobody believes you." Rena's voice went low. "Why are you so invested?" Lydia's smile faltered, just a crack. Then she recovered, wider, prettier. "Because you're my sister." Rena stared at her. "You've never acted like it." The air between them tightened. The old sister war, childhood resentments, jealousy, the way Lydia always seemed to win attention and Rena always had to earn it, rose up like it had been waiting behind the cabinets. And right then, it happened. A perfect, thumbnail-ready freeze frame in my own kitchen. Rena stood on the right side of the room, phone clutched tight in one hand and held slightly away from me like it was contaminated. Eyes wet but furious. Lydia was on the left, leaning forward with one finger stabbing the air toward my chest, a dramatic prosecutor. My mom sat between them at the table, one hand on her mug, the other gripping the edge like she might slide off the world. On the counter beside my keys lay that crumpled receipt and the printed HR email I'd just pulled up, 2 stupid pieces of paper suddenly heavier than any weapon. I hated that I could see it like a camera shot. I hated that our life had become content in my mind because my nerves were trying to survive by turning pain into images. Rena's voice shook. "What did you tell Tess?" Lydia's eyes widened, too innocent. "Me? Nothing. Tess reached out to me because she was worried about you." Rena blinked. "Tess doesn't even know you like that." Lydia didn't look away. "Maybe she should. Maybe she should know what kind of man you married." My pulse hammered. "Lydia, stop." She turned her head slowly toward me. "Or what, Marco?" The way she said my name made my stomach twist with a memory I refused to grab. A night, a hallway, a mistake, something I'd packed away so deep I'd almost convinced myself it wasn't real. Rena's eyes narrowed, catching the flicker in my face. What memory is that? I don't know what you mean, I lied. And in that second, I realized the real war wasn't just Tess and HR. It wasn't just my job dangling over a drop. The real war was inside this apartment, inside my wife's stare, inside the space between two sisters who could destroy each other just to win. My phone buzzed on the counter. A new email. Rena and I both looked down at the same time. Subject line: Urgent. Additional access event logged. The timestamp was just now. I hadn't even left the apartment. I stared at the screen, my hands going cold, because it meant one of two things. Someone still had my access, or someone wanted to prove I was guilty so badly they were willing to fabricate the future. The urgent additional access event logged email sat on my screen like a fresh bruise. Rena didn't hand me her phone anymore. She held it tight against her chest like it was a shield. Lydia stood near the doorway with that same too-bright expression, enjoying the oxygen she stole from her room. My mom kept staring at my keys on the counter as if metal could explain people. "I'm calling them," I said. Rena's laugh was small and sharp. "Who? HR, who just suspended you? Tess, who's texting me like she's my friend?" "I'm calling security," I said, even though I wasn't sure we even had a number that wasn't routed back through the same system that just tagged me as a problem. I found the company directory app, scrolled with fingers that didn't feel attached, and hit the extension for facilities. It rang twice, then clicked into voicemail. I left a message anyway. Name, employee ID. The words, "Someone is using my badge," coming out of my mouth like a confession. When I hung up, the apartment went quiet in that way that makes your skin listen. Rena's phone buzzed again. She flinched and checked it. Her face did that draining thing, like the message wasn't just information. It was poison. Lydia leaned closer. "What now?" Rena ignored her and looked at me. "Tess says if another access event happens, they'll treat it as escalation and involve law enforcement." I felt my stomach lurch. "That's insane. I'm sitting in my kitchen." Lydia lifted a brow. "Maybe you aren't the only one who can sit in your kitchen, Marco." Rena's eyes snapped to her sister. "What does that mean?" "It means people lie," Lydia said, sweet as syrup. "People say they're home when they're not." The words landed too pointed, like she knew where to aim. My son's backpack hung from the hook by the door, still damp from the morning. Nico would be home in 2 hours, and I suddenly couldn't picture how he'd walk into this without absorbing it. Rena noticed my glance and swallowed. "We can't do this in front of him." Lydia shrugged. "Then send him to Mom's." "My mom is in Orlando," Rena snapped. "Stop acting like you're in charge." My mom's voice cracked the air. "Rena, mija, please." Rena's face softened for half a second. "I'm sorry. I'm just scared." That was the truth none of us wanted to touch. Scared of money. Scared of shame. Scared of a story being written about us in other people's mouths. My phone vibrated. A voicemail notification. Our landlord. I hit play on speaker because at that point, privacy felt like a joke. "Marco, it's Mr. Han. Rent is late. If it's not paid by Friday, I have to file the notice. Call me back." Rena's eyes closed like the message physically hit her. The quiet horror crept in. The investigation didn't have to prove anything to break us. It only had to delay long enough. I opened the access email again. Door 3. Same as before. Timestamp 5 minutes ago. In the footer, a link. View associated camera clip. Managers only. Of course. As a warehouse supervisor, I knew door 3 was the one you used when you wanted a clean log and a clear camera angle. I thought of one person who might still answer me. Devin, an IT support guy I'd helped when his truck wouldn't start last winter. He wasn't close enough to risk his job for me, but he owed me a favor, and favors are the only currency that holds value when your official one gets frozen. I stepped into the hallway, away from the women, away from my mom's eyes, and called him. He picked up on the third ring. "Marco?" "I need you to tell me something," I said, keeping my voice low. "Are my credentials still active?" A pause. Keyboard clicks in the background. "Dude, why would I—" "Because someone just used my badge," I said. "And HR has me on leave." Silence. Then, quieter. "I can't access the full log without raising flags." "I'm not asking for the full log," I said. "I'm asking if they disabled me." More clicking. Devin exhaled. "Your account is still active. Restricted, but active." My blood went cold. "So they could—" "Yeah," he said. "Someone with the right permissions could clone your badge, or generate a proxy entry, or just swipe it if they had it." I stared at my keys through the half-open door. "No one has it." Devin hesitated. "Are you sure?" A memory flashed. Thursday night, my badge hanging on the hook, then not. Me, patting my pockets, annoyed, thinking I'd left it in the truck. Rena asking, distracted, "Did you get it?" Lydia's laugh from the hallway like a small bell. I forced my voice steady. "Devin, can you do anything?" "I can tell you one more thing," he said. "Door 3 has a camera, but access to footage is TESS level." TESS level. I thanked him and hung up, my hand shaking. When I walked back in, the apartment felt like it had shifted. Rena and Lydia were facing each other now, too close, like two drivers at an intersection who refused to yield. Rena was on the right, clutching her phone so hard her fingers shook. Lydia was on the left, leaning in with her chin lifted. My mom stood behind the table with one hand braced on the chair, eyes wide, caught between them. "You were texting Tess," Rena said, voice low. Lydia's eyes widened. "What?" "No." Rena held up her phone. "I saw your name pop up on her screen when she messaged me. Don't lie." Lydia laughed, but it sounded strained. "You're hallucinating now. You're letting him make you paranoid." "I'm not paranoid," Rena said. "I'm paying attention." My mom tried again, softer. "Girls." Rena didn't look at her. "Why did you call my husband from HR? Why were you threatening Tess? Why are you here?" Lydia's smile faded. Her voice dropped to something honest and ugly. "Because you won't listen. Because you never listen unless it hurts." Rena's nostrils flared. "This hurts because you're doing it." Then Rena's phone pinged again. She glanced down and her face turned pale in a way I hadn't seen yet. She held the screen up, shaking. It was a video thumbnail. Grainy, dark, a timestamp in the corner, someone's hand at a door, door 3. And in the small, cruel freeze frame, the figure turning toward the camera looked like me. Hood up, shoulders familiar, standing way too close to a woman with long hair slicked back from rain. Rena's eyes lifted to mine. "Tell me that's not my sister." Before I could speak, she hit play. Rena hit play, and the tiny speaker on her phone filled our kitchen with the hollow sound of a security camera clip. Wind noise, a distant metal rattle, the faint beep of a door unlocking. The image was angled down from above door 3, the one I knew too well. The timestamp sat in the corner like a sentence. A figure in a dark hoodie stepped into frame, shoulders hunched against the rain. The posture looked like mine. The height looked like mine. The way the person turned their head, quick, impatient, looked like me on a bad day. Rena's hand tightened around the phone so hard I thought it might snap. Then the figure shifted closer to someone just outside the camera's best view. A woman with long wet hair slicked back from her face. She leaned in, head tilted like she was listening to something private. Rena's breathing changed. I could hear it, even over the tinny audio. Lydia's face went still in a way that didn't match her acting. She wasn't watching the video like someone who was shocked. She was watching it like someone waiting to see which part would land hardest. My mom made a small sound behind us, half prayer, half panic. The clip lasted 14 seconds. The door beeped. The figure and the woman slipped inside. The frame went empty again, rain flicking across the lens like static. Rena didn't stop it right away. She replayed it once, thumb shaking. Then a third time, slower, like repetition could turn doubt into certainty. Finally, she lowered the phone, and her eyes lifted to me. I wanted to talk. I wanted to grab her hands and ground her in the only truth I had left. My own heartbeat, my own presence in this kitchen, my own memory of not being there. But her stare wasn't inviting truth. It was demanding an explanation that fit the footage. "That's not me," I said, and my voice sounded too small for the moment. Rena's lips parted. No sound came out at first. Then, quietly, like she was talking to herself more than me, she said, "It looks like you." "I know," I said. "That's the point. Someone wants it to look like me." Lydia let out a soft laugh that made my skin crawl. "Or maybe it just is you." Rena snapped toward her. "Stop." Lydia held up her hands again, palms out, but her eyes stayed sharp. "Rena, I'm trying to protect you. You're watching a video of your husband sneaking into his job after hours with a woman who—" "Don't," Rena said, louder now. "Don't you dare narrate my life like it's your show." My mom stepped forward, one hand braced on the table, the other hovering like she wanted to touch Rena but didn't know if she was allowed. "Mija, please, we can talk. We can—" Rena's eyes flicked to my mom, and for a heartbeat I saw her soften, the way she always did when my mom looked fragile. Then the softness hardened into something else. Resentment, fear, exhaustion. "This is what I mean," Rena said, voice trembling. "This is always what I mean. Something happens, and suddenly it's me who has to be calm, me who has to make it okay." I stepped closer. "Rena." She backed up fast, like my body was a threat now. She ended up on the right side of the kitchen near the fridge, one hand gripping the edge of the counter, the other clutching her phone. Her eyes were wet, jaw clenched, shoulders tight like she was holding herself together with muscle. Lydia drifted left toward the doorway, blocking it without making it obvious, like she was keeping control of the exits. My mom stood between them, small and shaking, caught in the crossfire with her cardigan hanging open and her mug abandoned on the table. It was another frozen frame of our life. 3 women, 3 different versions of love, all of it turning into war around me. Rena's voice dropped low. "Why do you have that video, Lydia?" Lydia blinked. "I don't." Rena lifted the phone. "It came from your number in a message to me last night. Don't play stupid." Lydia's face flashed, annoyance, then a quick mask of concern. "Fine, I sent it because you needed to see it. That's what sisters do." Rena's laugh broke in half. "Sisters? You don't even like me unless I'm losing." Lydia stepped forward, eyes bright with old heat. "I don't like what you become when you're with him. I don't like how you disappear. You used to be—" "Don't," Rena said again, and it sounded like pain now. Don't talk like you're the victim of my marriage. I felt my phone buzz in my pocket, then again. I ignored it, because I didn't want anything else to enter this room. But the buzzing kept going, like the universe had decided quiet wasn't allowed. Rena stared at my pocket like it was a weapon. Check it. I pulled the phone out. It was a text from Devin. You didn't get footage from door 3. That clip was exported. By Tess. 10 minutes ago. 10 minutes ago. While I'd been standing in my kitchen. My throat tightened. I turned the screen slightly so Rena could see, because hiding anything now would be suicide. Her eyes scanned it, and something in her expression shifted. Not trust, not relief, just a new layer of fear. Tess exported it, she whispered. So Tess is feeding my sister? Or my sister is feeding Tess? Lydia's face tightened. Why are you showing her texts from some guy? Rena's head snapped up. Why are you so defensive? Lydia's voice rose. Because you're letting him distract you. This is what he does. He changes the subject until you're exhausted and then you give up. Rena's whole body shook. I'm exhausted because you won't stop attacking me while pretending it's love. My mom whispered, Please, please. The kitchen light flickered once, just a small electrical hiccup, and for a second the room looked different, like it belonged to strangers. That was the quiet horror of it. The ordinary world kept functioning while our lives fell apart. Rena's phone buzzed. She looked down and went pale again. What now? I asked, but it came out like a plea. She held the screen up, hand trembling. It was a message request from an unknown number. Just one line of text and a photo attachment. The line said, Ask him what he promised her in the parking lot. The photo loaded slowly, pixel by pixel, like my phone was reluctant to reveal it. When it finally sharpened, my stomach dropped. It was taken inside a car at night, flash on. The image was tight and ugly, a close-up of 2 hands on a center console. One hand, broad, with a small scar near the thumb, looked like mine. The other hand had a thin bracelet I'd seen 100 times on Lydia's wrist, and between their fingers, like a stupid, damning prop, was my work badge. Rena stared at it, then at me. Her voice was barely audible. Why was your badge in my sister's car? I opened my mouth and the truth crowded behind my teeth. Too big, too dangerous, too final for this block of our story. Before I could speak, the front door lock beeped. Once, twice, a key turning. Rena whipped her head toward the door. Lydia's eyes widened, not fake this time. My mom froze like her heart stopped. And then the door opened and Nico walked in. Wet hair, backpack sagging, cheeks red from the cold, looking at all of us like he'd stepped into the wrong house. Behind him, in the hallway light, a woman's silhouette hovered for 1 second too long, and I heard Lydia's voice, soft and startled, like she'd just realized the game had moved without her permission. What did you do? Nico stood in the doorway with rain on his eyelashes, backpack dragging like it weighed more than his whole body. His eyes bounced from my mom to Rena to Lydia, then froze on me like he was trying to read my face for safety. Why is everybody yelling? He asked, small voice trying to pretend it wasn't scary. Behind him, the silhouette in the hallway stepped forward into the light. Tess. Not in her perfect coat anymore. She wore a hoodie and a knit cap, like she'd dressed down to look human, but her eyes were still the same, calm, measuring, already counting outcomes. Rena's hand flew to Nico's shoulder, pulling him slightly toward her instinctively. Why are you here? She said, voice shaking. Tess lifted one hand like she was soothing a startled animal. "Rena, I'm sorry. I didn't want to show up like this. Nico and I ran into each other outside. I walked him up." Nico blinked, confused. She knew my name. My stomach clenched so hard it hurt. She shouldn't have been anywhere near my kid. She shouldn't have been anywhere near my home. It felt like the world had lost all boundaries at once. Lydia's voice came out thin. "Tess, what are you doing?" Tess's gaze slid to her, and it was the first time I saw irritation break through her polished control. "Cleaning up," she said quietly. "Because you're sloppy." Rena stiffened. "You know each other." Tess didn't deny it. She stepped inside like she belonged, water dripping from her shoes onto our mat. In her hand was a manila folder, bent at one corner. She set it on the counter near my keys, right beside that crumpled receipt, like she was staging the scene. My mom whispered, "Dios mío," so softly it was almost nothing. Rena's voice rose. "Get out." Tess looked at Nico, then back at Rena, and softened her tone like she was performing empathy. "I'm here because HR flagged a safety concern. We received a message," she glanced at me with a cold little smile, "from Marco's account. It said you felt unsafe at home." Rena's head snapped toward me. "You did what?" "I didn't," I said, and the words sounded pathetic even to me. "That screenshot was fake." Tess reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. It wasn't just a screenshot. She tapped twice, then held her phone up toward Rena like a weapon dressed as evidence. A voicemail transcription filled the screen. Then the audio played. Tinny, but clear enough. "Hi, this is Tess Warren. Rena, I'm worried. If you need a safe place, I can help. HR is taking this seriously. Please don't confront him alone." Rena stared at it like it was poison. "You're telling my boss, my job, about my marriage?" Tess's eyes didn't move. "I'm protecting an employee." Lydia made a sharp sound. "Oh my God." Rena rounded on her sister. "Don't act surprised." Lydia's face flushed. "I didn't tell her that part." Tess's mouth tightened. "You told me enough." Rena's phone buzzed in her hand and she looked down automatically. Her shoulders sank, like the message hooked into her spine. "What?" I asked. She turned the screen toward me, not gently this time, like she was shoving truth into my chest. It was a text from a number saved as Tess, work. "I'm here. If you feel unsafe, say the word." Rena's eyes lifted, wet and furious. "So, you two planned this." Tess exhaled as if she was tired of pretending. "I didn't plan your husband lying to you. I didn't plan him showing up at door 3 after hours with your sister." Nico's head turned sharply. "My Aunt Lydia?" My mom flinched like she'd been struck. Rena's voice cracked. "Stop saying it in front of my son." Tess's gaze flicked to Nico, and for a split second I saw something like satisfaction. Then it was gone. "Then you should have handled it before it became public." That word, public, made the room spin, because she didn't mean a workplace investigation. She meant gossip, friend circles, group chats, the way our tight little community could eat you alive and call it concern. Rena's phone lit again. A message from one of her friends in our circle, the kind of woman who always hugged too hard and asked too many questions. "I heard HR is involved. Are you okay? Don't cover for him." Rena's thumb hovered over the screen like she wanted to throw the phone across the room. Then she looked at Lydia, and her voice went low, shaking with something deeper than anger. "Tell me the truth." Lydia's chin lifted. "I have been. No, Rena whispered. The truth. Not your version. The truth. Lydia's eyes darted to Tess, and Tess's expression went flat as a wall. That's when I understood the real shape of it. Tess wasn't using Lydia because she cared about Rena. She was using Lydia because Lydia was jealous enough to feed her anything. And Lydia wasn't protecting her sister. She was trying to win something she'd wanted for years. Control, attention, maybe even me, if I was being honest. Rena stepped forward until she and Lydia were inches apart, sisters on opposite sides of the same wound. Nico stood pressed against Rena's hip, my mom behind the table gripping a chair, Tess near the counter with her folder, and me in the middle, feeling like the air had turned to glass. "Did you take his badge?" Rena asked. Lydia swallowed. "I borrowed it." Rena's laugh broke, raw. "You borrowed his badge to sneak into his job at night?" Lydia's eyes flashed. "I didn't sneak in. He let me in." Rena's face went still. "Why would he do that?" Silence. Thick. Deadly. I felt my heartbeat in my teeth. I could hear the refrigerator hum. I could hear Nico breathing, fast and shallow. I could hear my mom's small, frightened inhale. Rena turned to me slowly. "Marco." I opened my mouth, and for the first time in 6 weeks of swallowing everything, I stopped trying to sound calm. "It was Thursday," I said, voice rough. "You came home late. I couldn't sleep. Your sister was here because she said she was helping you with your mom's stuff, and she stayed after you left." Rena's eyes narrowed. "I didn't leave. I went to pick up groceries." "I know," I said, and it hurt like a confession of another kind. "I didn't tell you this because I was ashamed. Lydia started talking about you, about how you were tired, about how you deserved better than all of this." I gestured helplessly at the apartment, at my mom's walker, at the bills on the counter. "She said you were drowning, and I was the anchor." Lydia's voice snapped, "because it was true." Rena didn't even look at her. "Shut up." I kept going because I had to. She touched my arm. I told her to stop. She kept pushing. And then my throat closed and I forced it open anyway. And then I kissed her. Rena made a sound like she'd lost air. "It didn't go further," I said fast, desperate, hating myself. It was a moment, a stupid, ugly moment, and the second it happened I pulled back. I told her she had to leave. Lydia's eyes burned. "Liar." I turned on her, voice shaking with rage. "You know what you did next." Rena's voice came out thin. "What did she do next?" I swallowed. She cried. Then she got quiet, and she said, "If you ever tell her, I'll destroy you." Lydia's smile was small and vicious. "I never said that." "You did," I said, "and then you took my badge off the hook by the door like it was nothing, like you owned it." Rena stared at her sister. "You stole it." "I took insurance," Lydia hissed, "because men like him always rewrite the story." Tess finally spoke again, almost bored. "And you gave me the insurance." Rena's head snapped toward Tess. "You used it." Tess's eyes didn't blink. "I used documented misconduct. That's what companies do." Rena's voice rose, shaking. "You manufactured access events while he was here." Tess shrugged slightly. "Your sister gave me the badge number. She gave me the footage context. It wasn't hard to tighten the narrative." The quiet horror landed in my chest. She said it like she was tightening a screw, not crushing a life. Nico's voice cut through, small and broken. "Dad, did you kiss Aunt Lydia?" I felt like I'd been punched. Rena pulled him tighter against her, tears finally spilling. My mom covered her mouth with her hand, shoulders shaking, and I saw the guilt hit her too. The guilt of being another weight on our marriage. I stepped toward Nico, hands open, and Rena flinched like my movement could hurt him. That flinch was my ending, right there. Not a signature on paperwork. Not HR. Not Tess. Not even Lydia. Just my wife's body choosing distance from me in front of our kid. "I'm sorry," I whispered to Nico, voice cracking. "I'm so sorry." Rena wiped her face hard, like she hated the tears. Then she looked at Tess with something fierce. "Get out of my home." Tess didn't move at first. "Rena, if you want protection—" "I said get out," Rena snapped, and for the first time her voice had a sharp edge that didn't bend for anyone. Tess's jaw tightened. She grabbed her folder, but before she left, she leaned slightly toward me, just enough that only I heard her. "You're done," she murmured, "and you did it to yourself." Then she walked out like she'd merely delivered mail. Lydia stayed. Rena turned on her sister like a door slamming. "You are dead to me." Lydia's eyes went wide, suddenly panicked. "Rena, You wanted to win?" Rena said, voice shaking with rage. "Congratulations. You win. You can have the ashes." Lydia's mouth opened, but no sound came out. She looked at me like I would save her, like I owed her mercy. I didn't. "Leave," I said, and my voice surprised even me. "Now." Lydia's face twisted, hurt, fury, humiliation. Then she yanked her coat tighter and stormed out, the door slamming hard enough to rattle the frames on the wall. Silence fell again, but it was different now. Not tense, just empty. Rena stared at the counter where my keys sat beside that crumpled receipt, as if those objects were proof that life was real. She took one slow breath, then another. "I'm taking Nico to my friends," she said, voice flat. "Don't follow us." I nodded because there was nothing else to do. "Okay." My mom whispered, "Rena, please." Rena softened for a second, and it broke me. She crouched and took my mom's hand gently. "I'm not blaming you," she said, voice trembling. "I'm just done being the one who holds everything together." Then she stood, took Nico's backpack, and guided him toward the door. Nico looked back at me once, eyes wet, like he wanted me to say the right thing that would fix it. There was no right thing big enough. The door closed behind them, and the lock clicked like a final period. I stood in our kitchen with my mom's quiet sobs and the hum of appliances and the rain tapping the window, and I felt the truth settle into place. The job was probably gone, the marriage was shattered, and I couldn't even pretend I was only a victim. I picked up my phone and typed a message to HR with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. "I request a formal review. My badge was taken. I have a witness. I am cooperating fully." Then I deleted it. Then I retyped it. Then I sent it anyway, because even if I deserved consequences, I didn't deserve to be framed into a criminal story for someone else's promotion. My mom's voice behind me was small. "Marco, what will you do?" I stared at the wet glass, at my reflection blurred by rain, and I said the only honest thing I had left. "I'm going to tell the truth from now on," I whispered, "even if it costs me everything."